At the highest level, setting traps for your opponent is not enough. You also have to be able to solve the ones they set for us. Welcome to Fouts Boxing Theory with professional boxing and MMA striking coach Matt Fouts. We're going to be taking a look at just how good Jesse Bam Rodriguez is. All right. So early in the fight, there's not a lot to separate them when they're both fresh, when they're both relaxed. Sonny Edwards was able to kind of keep up with Bam, catch him with some shots before he was able to get his pull counters off. But as you saw in that last clip, Jesse Bam Rodriguez was setting pull counter traps for Sonny Edwards all throughout the fight, just like Sonny Edwards was setting them for him before the final sequence, where he was able to drop him and really hurt him by throwing a 1-2. But at the highest level, there's a lot of small attacks. You get to the line and you just peel, you just try to get away, and you try to come back with something if your opponent tries to catch you in the small amount of time that you are on the line. Now, you also have to be able to solve the traps of your opponent. Now, in this moment, Sonny Edwards thought he was going to be able to catch Bam with a jab. Bam's able to get down, pull, get his weight to the ground, and come up with a good structure and land a really solid shot again. And we're going to be taking a look at all of his training footage. We're going to be taking a look at this stuff and kind of figure out where he trains all this stuff. But again, we got a lot of stuff to take a look at. Now, another little trap that he has here. We're going to take a look. He's going to step with his jab here, boom, and Sonny Edwards is going to try to counter him, and he's going to jump off the line and land a 2-3. That was a really cool little sequence, a little cool little trap that he had off of his jab that I thought. Another one that is jab, and then he kind of catches him with a really big hook right here. Again, jabbing or hooking off of his jab, another trap, another little thing that he can do off of that limited amount of time that he's going to be on the line with his opponent. Jab, pull. Now, in this sequence, we're going to start talking about how Jesse steps on a lot of his punches. Now, in this sequence, he comes around the guard and kind of throws a hook. But now, check it out. He's going to come back to the line here with another stepping jab, and he's met with a jab from Sonny. Now, he jumps onto the line with a jab here, and Sonny's pulling this. He's coming down, bringing his weight to the ground so he can launch up with this hook-like thing, overhand left from him, and he's able to kind of go over that kind of stepping attack of Jesse here. Now, again, a lot of stepping attacks from Jesse, and he kind of hurts him here. Now, again, check him out. Again, stepping here, again, stepping, and he gets caught clean again by Sonny. Again, one of the few bad habits that Bam Rodriguez has is that he does step a lot with his jab, a lot with those punches, thinking that he always has to close range, right? Now, if you're feinting, you're probing, or you're controlling your opponent with punches, these kinds of probing punches like this, your opponent is going to do some of the work for you. And that's what the stepping jab doesn't really take into account, is that your opponent is going to be chasing you sometimes, trying to counter your jab. And if you always step with it, you're going to do stuff like this, where not only is your opponent going to follow you back with stuff, good, very good fighters like Terrence Crawford are going to catch you over the top of it. Okay. Now, he does have a few other flaws we're going to talk about. Again, stepping here, getting off the line. Again, I really like the fact that he can get off the line. Again, great pull counter, catching Sonny here. Again, this fight was fought at a high level and with a lot of pull counters, a lot of lead hand control or lead hand probes. And then again, jumping on the line, jumping off the line. Now, this is one of my, I'll say this is the Fouts boxing rhythm step, that thing that people just shouldn't do. You just see it and people just don't know. It's one of those really terrible habits, right? People think the rhythm step is bad. It's not. You just don't know how to use it. Your footwork is bad if you don't understand how to use the footwork, or the pendulum step, or the pendulum walk, as I call it. But this front foot pivot here that Bam is doing here, he does it quite a bit, and we're going to watch it in the training and stuff. But it's one of the biggest weaknesses that he has. Notice how quickly they're throwing their jabs and getting on the line, boom, and then peeling, and then coming back with the shot. Look at how long he stays exposed and on the line with his opponent. Let's just watch that clip one more time. Getting on the line, off the line, on the line. Look at how quick, look how small the margins. And look at when he gets trapped here trying to do that move, okay? He winds up exposing himself, and again, it's one of those moves that he kind of does a lot. Now, we're going to take a look at some of their heavy bag work, okay? Some of Bam's, talk about a little bit of his intensity, a lot of snap, a lot of pivoting. That move very similar to stepping off the line when his opponent would come at him. Now you see how he circles the bag here? I'm going to go ahead and pause it real quick, okay? Now, I want you to pay attention to, look, he was just there a second ago. He already did an entire lap around the bag. All right? This is really, really, really important because in a fight, you're not going to be punching the whole time. You're not. You're going to be moving around. You're going to be. Now, the only caveat is you can't be pivoting on the front foot. When you get on the front foot, that's when you got to fight. You either got to be fighting or you got to be retreating, but you can't be spending time not punching and not slipping. As you see, when Bam gets to the line against Sunny, we're going to go ahead and take a look at that because it's such a good clip. But when he gets to the line here against Sunny, right? Boom. He's only allowed to be there for a second, right? Before he's able to come back with the shot. And if you're pivoting on your front foot, you're going to get stuck on the front foot. You're going to get hit with hard shots doing something you were taught was correct, but it's not. It's not correct, okay? But the stepping jab and the front foot pivot, those being some of the most detrimental things in all of the things that Bam Rodriguez does, okay? He does a great job of fighting off of his own punches, off of his own jabs, as well as fighting off of his opponent's jab. Again, very, very, very important. Okay, now we're going to get right back to the training footage. We're going to start talking about some of the patterns and the sequences. Again, we'll notice again a lot of stepping jabs from him when he's on the bag here. Stepping here, stepping there. Front foot pivot, circling. But again, turn it down just a tad. The circling is very, very, very good for his overall footwork. There's not a lot of breaks. It's a very, very high intensity, high snap routine. And it's very, very, very important that we stay busy, right? If you can't fight or train for a 3-minute round with no breaks, no pausing, how is your coach supposed to know that you can fight 3 minutes of a round of a fight, of a real fight, right? It's very, very, very important that you can do something like that at a kind of a high intensity, a high level, okay? Practicing a little bit of striking. Now, those movements here, right, where he's going to take a step onto the line, he's going to throw a rear hand. That's very similar to him practicing his regular pull counter. The one that he was able to catch Sunny off of his jab, and I'll try to point it out if he does it again. There was one right there. There's another. But one thing that that's really interesting is very, very high intensity. Again, very important to practice your defense, your non-punching activity, your circling, your movement. But we're also going to take a look at a couple of his drills on the mitts as well. Yeah, but overall, a pretty solid routine. A lot of effort, a lot of hard punches. Again, it's very important that you practice your hardest punches every day, your fastest punches every day, and you want to practice all the little tricks and all the little things, not just like one small thing here, one small thing there, like, oh, I'm only going to work my jab today. Like, yeah, work your jab every day, right? But you need to practice the most common sequences, the most common patterns, and the most common skills. Block and right hand, down, up. Again, that move right there where he goes down and then he comes up. That's the movement right there where he's training his pull counter into a rear hand, the one that he hit Sonny Edwards there. And then obviously you see where the 1-2s and stuff come from. But we're going to go ahead and jump ahead. Again, this is actually a really long routine. He gets here. This is like 6 minutes, almost no breaks here that he goes through on the heavy bag. However much it is. It's a few minutes, 4 minutes or something. But it's really high intensity. And now we're going to get to the mitt work and stuff. And again, a lot of stepping, okay? Stepping jab here, stepping jab here. High intensity, right? which is a lot of the stuff that we want. Pivoting on the front foot, again, I really don't like the pivoting on the front foot. A little bit of that could be contributed to the kind of overemphasis that Robert Garcia has on rolling after a sequence. Now, I want to point out that it's not bad that he's rolling. You don't want to roll every time, right? But it is important that you understand that combat takes place in three phases. Okay, the time, the non-punching activity where it takes you to get on the line with your opponent, then the striking patterns that you do once you're there, and then what you do after the striking. And by forcing him to roll, he makes him do something that's not punching to get off the line with his opponent, right? So it kind of initiates that third sequence for him, forcing him to um, practice the non-punching part right there, getting off the line. And there's that sequence right there where he jabbed on the line, boom, and then Sonny chased him and he jumped off the line. In this one, he's throwing a 1-2, but it's on the line off 1-2. But you can see him practicing those sequences there. Some pretty clever stuff, some pretty interesting stuff. It's not all the most efficient and the most, exactly how you want to do it. But so many, so many, so much activity in the routine, right? Again, you can't take breaks in your routine when you're doing your rounds. Now, there are different styles of training, right? Mitt work is similar to hitting the bags or hitting the double in bag. And there are going to be times where you'll be doing your striking, which you're not really concerned about a round timer as much as just getting your reps for your punches. Um, but your round time stuff, you don't want to take breaks. You want it to be high intensity. Right there, you guys see him practicing the jab hook, jab into the just a few seconds. If you guys want to go back and check it out, there it is, jab hook. He used it a little bit different in the fight, um, but you can see again a lot of stepping jabs in the routine. Not a lot of if you're watching him, where's the non-punching activity? Where's the parts where he's moving around and using his active guard? Um, and it's these kinds of things that cause him to have to step with more punches, as well as do moves like that where he pivots on the front foot and kind of rolls under. But all the major sequences that he practices, and again, uh, just real quick, the Fouts boxing combat system. If you take a look at a lot of the flow of the path of movement of BAM, um, it's a lot of down up motions and then down after. It's very, very, very important that we get our weight to the ground before we strike, and then we strike, and then we have to get back to the ground for defense. This is a very, very, very important idea in the way that we construct our striking patterns, because this is how we get our 2 foot punching structures ready to attack our opponent. Okay, now when we punch, a lot of people think that we're going to just push off the back foot, or we're going to pivot off of one foot and get to the heel on the other foot. And like, there's a little bit of that. Um, the concept of that is also fluidity. It's not just about punching. But in terms of just raw striking, it's very, very, very important that you understand that we drive our weight from both feet. Okay, now um, in the Fouts boxing combat system, I'm the first person in history to be able to solve this idea and understand this concept of 2 foot punching. I'm the first person in history to create an entire combat system based off the idea that this is how we generate power, we generate momentum, we generate our kinetic chain in this fashion from the ball of one foot and the heel of the other, which means I have the most complete system and understanding of the body mechanics of boxing, um, and all of combat. But it's very, very, very important that you pay attention to this rhythm, this down up rhythm, and create your structures, accordingly. Um, but um, where was I going with this? Well, as we move on, again, that down up rhythm, right, is part of how we conserve our energy, we conserve our momentum, but it also helps to aid our active guard. Okay. And what I was saying about Bam is if you continue watching these sequences here, there's not a lot of sequences, right? When he's not punching, he's just kind of like this, right? And that's when he should be catching and blocking and moving and trying to do his non-punching, circling his opponent. Some people use the term lateral movement, but it's only like half of it because we're always going to be moving in relation to our opponent, right? If we want to retreat, we're not just going to be moving to the right, we're also going to be moving away from them as well, right? In a direction. If we're going left, right, we're also going to be going toward our opponent, right? Taking up some space to threaten their position, right? To threaten their line. And that's why I don't really like the term lateral movement. I prefer circling your opponent. Um, because again, we're going to be doing that stuff in relation to our target, not the ring. Um, but there's no circling in the routine. He's kind of following him. He does have very explosive sequences where he'll have boom, boom, and then he'll have downs, and then he can apply his pull counters to those motions. He can very easily turn them into more offense on the next beat. And this is one of the huge differences in his and Sonny Edwards' training. We're going to take a look at a little bit of his shadow boxing. Now, when I talk about grading a fighter and I talk about how good a fighter is or is not, um, there's like a C-level fighter, which is somebody who can basically do all the moves, right? They can throw the right hand and then the jab, and they can throw the lead hand and the rear hand. They can throw the hooks and they can throw the overhands, and they can throw the uppercuts, and they can throw the left hook to the body, and um, they can slip and they can do all the things. But they don't really have like a real rhyme or reason. Like not that they get lucky, but a lot of times these guys, they're stronger or more fit, or they're kind of taking a lot of risks in the fights. A B level fighter is someone who has some type of control over the line. Okay. Now, if you take a look at this, there's going to be a time where he pauses his workout because this camera guy is here, and he can't get around. And there's a time where this pole blocks him. Again, I'm a big fan of the big open areas and being able to continually uh, or perpetually move around and circle the bag, okay? Being able to get all the way around it. And normally that's not really a problem we saw in the last heavy bag work. Um, but a B level fighter is someone who has some opportunity to kind of manipulate the line and control the line enough to set something up, either on offense or defense. In Bam's case, in defensive terms, if he can get to the line here and you throw a punch at him and he can get out of the way of that shot and come back before you get out of that space, that's the level of a someone who can fight off of their defense. It's a B level fighter. Now, someone who can get to the line, they can throw a punch and then get off the line and hit you with the rear hand. If you try to counter them, I consider also a B level fighter. Somebody who can kind of do both is going to get the grade of an A level fighter. And there aren't very many fighters who are competent at both skills. Like Gennady Golovkin is very, very, very good at fighting off of his own jab. Not always that good, right? In the case of Canelo fighting off defense, right? He could fight off of a low level guy's jab that he could probe and bait out off of his own jab, but fighting off of his opponent's punches, a lot of times he would just concede space, which would give him the rank of a B level fighter, B plus because he has power, a little augment from if you have speed or if you have power, anything that makes you, or if you're really tall, anything that makes you really hard to fight for the division, I'll give you like a little modifier. Or if you're slow, you get a minus modifier, right? Now, most fighters like that, oh, an A level fighter, he can do all the things, but he gets a three minuses because he's slow, is going to lose to like an average fighter, right? That'd be a guy who's not really in shape. Like James Toney, right? Would be like a guy who's not really in shape. But like, at heavyweight, he's competing. Anyway, let's not get too into that minus stuff. But Bam Rodriguez is the kind of fighter that can fight off of his own punches. He can fight off of your punches. He does have, again, like I said, a few small flaws with stepping with his punches, stepping with his jabs, and then also pivoting on the front foot. Both of those moves expose him to more risk than a fighter his level needs. He's such a high level athlete. Now, Sonny here, a lot of striking here. He's planted for a lot of this stuff, doing some of these sequences. This is a very common sequence. We're going to take a look at that in a second. Oh, he might have already done them all. Jab, slip. You see how he jabs and then he slips and then he comes back? That's a very, very poor sequence. Um, if you're going to go here and then you're going to go here, if you're going to go here, you should just throw a right hand. Control the line with some power. Hit the guy. Maybe you go here, boom, right? And it's not here, right? You're here, and you've just got a really good 1-2, right? Anyway, it just doesn't make any sense. I'll keep playing the video. Another thing I want to point out before I move on about is this is preparing to fight Bam Rodriguez. This is their media workout like a month ago or whatever. Pay very close attention to what's going on here, you guys. Um, yeah, his coach is not Southpaw, right? Anyway, I do think on average, whoops, we're going to move on. I think this is a much better representation of Bam's heavy bag work. So go ahead and watch this as I continue to talk about this stuff. A little bit more defense in his work, a little bit more with the bag being able to move, the bag not being as heavy. He's able to work on some of that other stuff. Again, I don't really like the resetting like that, but here he is practicing a little bit of non-punching activity, a little bit of head movement there. Again, I don't really like that, but you can see where it fits in his routine. Couple of stepping jabs. Um, but but Bam is quick enough that he shouldn't have to step with his jab. He should also understand that if you're probing your opponent, you don't want to get close to them when you step with your jab. You want to bring them to you when you pull off. Similar to what he's doing there, punching, rolling off of there. Um, yeah, some pretty decent heavy bag work. I do want to say still a lot of room for improvement in his routine. Still a lot of um, still a lot of space for him to grow. I also don't know what round this is. Who knows? Maybe 50 round what this. A lot of defense blocking and countering here. Combinations, high level of athleticism, high level of stress on his body. Um, a pretty solid routine, to be honest. Interacting with the bag a lot of movement. When he's not punching, he's not just sitting still, shaking his hands out. Thinking, right? Um, Again, a high level routine doesn't have a lot of gaps. It doesn't have a lot of holes because a high level fight won't either, right? Now we're going to move on to a little bit of his double in bag work. Now, um, again, high level of effort, high level of fitness, a lot of power, a lot of punches, constant movement when he's not punching. Granted, when he takes these little steps up after the end of the sequence and he just boom, boom, again, we don't want that stuff in our routine. We want to remove it because we don't get to do that in a fight. So anyway, what grade does he get? Well, if you can fight off of your punches, your own offense, that means you're a good prober. Okay, you get a B if you can fight off of your opponent's punches, which he can fight off of his opponent's jabs pretty well. Um, there are a lot of other little tricks that he needs to work on, more catching of punches and blocks. There's other little um, ways that he needs to learn to interact with the line to get a full repertoire. But um, I think that Bam deserves to be on everybody's pound for pound list. I know everyone has Inoue up there, um, but I just don't think that Inoue is the guy. I know that he's got the accolades and stuff. I know that he's got this and that, but I think that Bam Rodriguez is a much better fighter. If they get to fight, if Inoue doesn't get chased up to getting knocked out by Tank, maybe Bam Rodriguez can make a run for his money, do a catch weight and fight him, you know, um, move up and fight Inoue. That'd be a sick fight. Um, but I give Bam. I want to say it's a hesitant A. I give him a hesitant A. I think he is top five pound for pound fighter. Um, he's got decent power. He's pretty fast. He does make a very, very, very huge fundamental flaw with the stepping jab. But if you're fast, like with Devin Haney has shown, you don't always have to pay for it. So it doesn't always matter, right? Until it does. Okay, and it's very, very, very important um, that we take into account that eventually, you know, you're going to fight someone who has seen on someone who has a stepping jab before. Inoue is somebody who's fought many people with stepping jabs as well. Probably has many slip counter knockouts over the top of those stepping punches, pull counters as well. Um, um, Inoue is a guy that steps with his punches quite a bit as well. But I do think that Bam Rodriguez's routines are very, very, very good. I think that he has a lot of movement. I think that he doesn't take a lot of breaks. He fights at a high level, a high pace, a professional routine, right? A professional level. Um, and yeah, I give him a hesitant A. Again, it's a fragile A. It's a fragile A because when he fights a power puncher, I know he has a couple of good fights, a couple of good wins against power punchers, right? Being southpaw, having a good stepping jab, you'll go a long way, right? But especially as he continues to move up in weight and not fight these little tiny guys for like, you know, I don't know. I hope he's making really good money because again, being a pound for pound great fighter, very hard to do. Being a pound for pound great fighter in, he competes in three different weight classes down there, like at a championship level, knocking people out in some weight classes where there are so many people, right? It's not like there's like not even that many people. There's a lot of people at that height and that weight, that fight. So very competitive, very difficult to control fights at that speed. Very, very, very difficult. So yeah, I give him an A. I think that he's very likely going to be, an all-time great fighter if he doesn't get bored with boxing soon. As long as he keeps having fun, beating people up and smashing people, and he doesn't mind, kind of doing that Lomachenko thing, I'll say, going for his third weight division, right? Or that Roberto Duran thing, right? Moving up in weight, beating up a lot of guys, getting stronger, hitting harder, you know, got to work through that stepping jab because that doesn't work at that. If as soon as you start fighting people who are bigger than you, that stepping jab's going to be a problem. But um, yeah, if he doesn't get bored with boxing, like was it David Benavidez talking about like wanted to be a car salesman or some shit after? But I don't know what he wants to do after. But someone was talking about. I know Crawford's talking like he wants to retire. That's like one of the most popular moves. Like, I don't know if y'all ever see me again, man. I made my bag. I'm out. Blah 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 blah. I'm retired. I'm retired. Like Mayweather did. And then nobody wants to miss any of his fights. And like, well, he might retire. You better see him when Like I get it, but come on. Anyway, Canelo fight Crawford. Don't be a pussy. Um, Devin Haney. Don't think about fighting Crawford. Don't be a hero. Um, Anyway, I think Ben Rodriguez is a pretty damn good fighter. Um, yeah.